All right, and welcome everyone to tonight's video podcast panel, if you will. Thank you for choosing to take a little bit of time out of your day and join us. I am so excited to share with you a few hints and tips that have helped me in this time to kind of escape what I call the monkey mind. We'll talk more about that here today. And I've invited some friends of mine, some pro coaches, to share a few of the tips that they are using both with their clients and themselves to help themselves to stay on top of everything that's going on. So what you'll find here is generally if you're new to Zoom, there'll be a menu bar either at the top or the bottom of the screen, usually at the bottom of the screen. And there may be an icon you'll see that looks like a little bubble, a cartoon bubble that says chat. That little chat window can open up off to the side. If you're not familiar with that, you'll look for that little bubble. In that chat window, there should be a series of icons. So I'll say everybody that's currently on today's Zoom meeting. And then there'll be a series of buttons. If you click the green check mark button, it means yes. So just real quick, I want to know that everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, go ahead and check the yes button. Awesome. Check the yes button if you can hear me. That little green one. And then, all right, just kind of confirming where we're at here. Again, check that yes button if you can see me. Okay, Tiana, you can. Melody, you can hear me. Awesome. If you check the button again, that will go away. Go ahead and check the button again. Okay, so some of you may be able to hear me, but not have that little button. So don't be alarmed if you don't have that button. That is okay. As long as I know that you can hear me and see me for the time being. I'm going to be inviting on a series of guests here today, and they'll be asking you questions, sharing with you a few powerful hints and tips. And this is just an opportunity for us to escape for just a moment, to resharpen the tools we have in our toolbox, to kind of change our state of mind. All right. So for a few minutes here, I want to make sure that everybody can see. Okay, so on some people's screens, thank you, Jen. On some people's screens, your button may say reactions. So if your screen says reactions, or you have a button that says reactions, that's something you can click on and give a little thumbs up there. That would be something if you can hear me. But it seems like at the bottom of the chat window or the reactions button, that'd be a great way to interact. In addition to this, the chat window itself, I believe you can, there we go, a group chat. If you want to share a chat with everyone, again, that little bubble will pop up. See, we're about here. If you're on the web version, you may see the hand, yes or no options. Thank you, James. But if you have a question for today, you're welcome to chat that in. I will have a period of time at the very end that you can ask myself or any of my specialists, any of my pro coaches on my panel some questions. So stick around to the very end. Before we jump into that, if you know and have been to any of my trainings, you know I start with a good positive review, but in addition to that, a little bit of magic. So if I can facilitate you for a moment, let's actually set up a little bit of what we're going to be talking about here today. Something that I don't want you to take with a grain of salt or a whole salt shaker. I promise you the jokes will get worse. So that's my promise to you today. And so sometimes we are in a state of mind that's, for lack of better words, a little salty. And that can be a little bit challenging. If you're anything like me, you may have an opportunity where it's like, man, what's going on right now with the economy, with the state of being? And the temptation is to look at maybe the unknown future and freak out about the possibilities of the economy that may be under jeopardy, and I start letting my mind go a little bit crazy, right? So here we have a little coin on the table, and the only thing that's challenging about that is sometimes we add a little bit of salt to the equation and just kind of salt our thinking, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to place that whole shaker on the top. Sometimes the whole weight of the world weighs down on us entirely. And so what I'm going to do here is our job is to change the state of being such that we can get back on top of that coin here, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the salt shaker and hopefully create an impossible event here today by transforming some of those salty thoughts that we have into something that can be more productive to actually bring us a little bit more of that dough. All right. So today what we're doing is focusing in on some of the thoughts that bring us that sinking feeling deeper into that mental quarantine that keeps us stuck. And how do we actually get more into that abundance thinking? All right. Now, again, when we have a solid against a solid, it's really hard to kind of pass through each other. But if we can actually create a slight state change, just possibly, we can transform that solid into something like a gas that more easily produces a transformation. And today, what we're going to be offering you, myself and my pro coach panel, are some opportunities to transform maybe not your state from a solid to a gas, insert joke here, but to transform your state of mind so that you can get back into being more productive and creative. And what is the key here is to becoming more resourceful. And so today, what I'd like to do is really kind of set up what we're going to be talking about here today. You should be able to see our screen. Welcome to Escaping the Mental Quarantine. This is a live video podcast, an opportunity for you to participate in a conversation that I like to bring in some professionals that may be specialists on a given topic and share a little bit of what seems difficult in our lives and make it a little bit easier. Because the truth be told, life is a little bit complicated right now, if you haven't noticed. Whether you're in quarantine or whether you're in a space of a limited connection with the people you're used to connecting with. Today, what we're going to be talking about is what happens when the mind meets a series of challenges or unknowns. This natural reaction is for that inner survival brain inside that we've evolved from, but we still have part of our brain, that monkey mind, as some people call it. It's the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism that we encounter anytime we feel like we're inundated with challenges. I was going to say survival is in jeopardy, but we're not really, for most of us, not in a threat of survival, but we are inundated with challenges where we don't have simple pathways to solutions. So what do? We frantically claw at any possible solution, and we'll take usually the first one that comes to mind or the one that seems the easiest. And for many of us, the easiest solution actually can be most costly. It could cost us a lot of time, energy, and money if we're not careful. And this wakens up that monkey brain, that monkey mind of ours that wants to protect us. The fight, flight, or freeze response being like, wow, there are no easy solutions right now. What do? And we spin and we spin and we spin. And that is the chaotic state of our mind that some people have been maybe chatting about on social media or sharing with you as friends and family members. The chaotic state that we put ourselves in mentally, even though the world's true, there's a lot of challenges going on right now. There's no denying that. I'm not saying ignore that. What I'm saying is whenever we are experiencing a chaotic state, it releases this monkey mind, a natural trigger of the mind to go fight, flight, or freeze and conserve as much energy and usually grab whatever tool is the easiest, not necessarily the most resourceful. And so today, what you will walk away with is an opportunity to, one, identify that monkey mind and when it steps into chaotic state, be able to recognize that, see how you got there, plus you'll give some quick and easy strategies that you can implement in easy as 5 minutes to put that monkey mind asleep so you can move into higher levels of thinking, higher levels of creativity, all right? So peaceful states, when we're not challenged, when things seem okay, it relaxes the monkey mind and that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism is not triggered and we can go into more of an emotional or intellectual state of being and start being more and more creative. Now, there really are kind of these two states of being, is what we're going to be referring to them as today, our states of being, our state of being. And there's really, I guess, two states of being. If I could really just categorize these here, there are going to be two states of being that we really want to label so you can quickly identify which state you're in and how to apply some of the strategies and tools that we'll be talking about and sharing today. Now, why is this so important right now? It's like, Doug, like seriously, there are more important things we need to talk, or this will pass, you know, this currently where we're at is not the state we're going to be in, you know, years from now, or even a year, hopefully from now. The problem is we are establishing habits of being right now. James Clear, the author of the book Atomic Habits, says, correct your mistakes before they become habits. This is a great time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to identify what tools really work for us in a state of chaos, so that we can apply them now and become stronger, more resourceful, and come out of this thing more resourceful because of it, and let that serve us as we move forward. So I think this is a quote that was actually sent out today by James Clear, and he's a phenomenal guru on establishing habits. It's a phenomenal book. Yeah. Mitchell Hoganson's like, I just finished reading the book. Love it. I highly advise it. And he just speaks directly and clearly to the mind. So this is really important for us to identify is, okay, we've got to work on ourselves now. Yes, this will all pass. But if we're just hankering down and in survival mode, what opportunities, learning are we missing out on? Now, we got to understand as well that our mind is typically oriented towards negativity. So this is a really easy state. The world just clamors towards what's not working. If you turned on the news or read blog posts, it could be very easy to get caught up in that negative state of being, or that negative state of mind, because our, as scientists referred it to as an inbuilt preference for negative thoughts, this negativity bias, as it's called. And I actually look at it as not necessarily a negativity bias. I see it as our mind trying to conserve as much energy as possible in our current state of being. And to do that, we got to avoid danger. I can go after what I want or avoid danger. Avoiding danger can help me to conserve energy. It's like the difference between, okay, what would cost you more energy? Sitting on the couch and watching your favorite show on Netflix, or going to the gym and doing some heavy lifting training? One will bring you towards swifter growth physically, the other one towards more atrophy, depending on what you're watching, right? But most likely, staying on the couch leads you to towards more atrophy. And so the mind says, wow, I would rather stay on the couch and avoid what is challenging, what would have me consuming more energy. And it sometimes has us stopping to try new things, and resistance to trying new things, which then sometimes looks like negativity. Oh, I don't want to do that. Or I don't want to try that. Or if I were to try that and fail, you know, what would be the worst case scenario? And so this negativity bias is part of the mechanism of the brain to just help us to conserve energy. And it serves us in many good times. It also possibly doesn't serve us. It holds us back, especially, again, in these days and age. Again, there's a time to conserve energy, very important for us. And there's also a time to stretch. And so you got to decide what is the time for you in this moment. And today I hope to equip you with tools. And I really feel confident that you walk away from some of the suggestions my panelists have today with some simple guidelines to feel like you can take grasp over your mental state of being. So what is our state? That's really kind of what we're talking about here. What is our state? And what is a state change? I'm going to talk about this term a lot. A state change can be as simple as getting in your car and driving up to Idaho, from Utah to Idaho. State change can be easy as that. I told you the jokes are going to get worse from here on out. But what is our state? Okay, our state of being in what we're going to be talking about today, our context of today, is the combination of our mental emotional state. We're going to combine those together, plus our physical state. So our physical state of being and how we're feeling energetically or physically, and then our mental emotional state. And we've all had those days where maybe things are going great in our life. Things are going well, you know, maybe great connection with your spouse, partner, or friends, and business is good. But we wake up and we're not feeling great. We didn't sleep well that night before. Maybe a child is sick. But things are going well in our lives, but our body is feeling lethargic and we're feeling down. That sometimes pulls our mental state, which was in good repair at that moment, pulls us down because we're just not feeling great. right? Or for anybody who's been around maybe a traditional Thanksgiving table and eaten way too much, their physical body is all weighted down with consuming all that food. And sometimes we just go into what is called a food coma, right? So that's where our physical state can pull our mental state down. It can be the opposite. I'm feeling good, I'm healthy, I'm rocking. And then I maybe get pulled into my boss's office, or in this day and age, chatted up by my boss, and I'm given some pretty harsh critique. Well, I was feeling great before that critique, and now because I took that personally, it now pulls my energy levels down. Maybe a coworker is wondering, like, what's going on, or maybe again, we are healthy, and everybody in the family is doing well health-wise, but yet we go onto social media, or we flip on the news, or we watch what's going on, and maybe we're tuning into something that's really heavy, and our mental emotional state is like, or we check out our bank account, or whatever is going on, and suddenly our mental emotional state has our body, our physical state just dripping down with heaviness, and that really triggers that monkey mind. So mental and physical state can alter our mental emotional state can alter our physical state, as well as our physical state altering our mental emotional state. I feel like either side, it's like a scale. If one thing has a lot of weight or commitment to it, it will alter the other. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I can wake up feeling a little bit tired and my mental state being very positive won't pull my physical state to have a relative amount of energy. That happens too, and that's what we're going to be offering today, is a combination of mental emotional state changes as well as some physical state change tools to put you in an overall state of being that is productive, that is empowered, and ready to take on the next day. That's what we're going to be offering you today, some quick and easy plug and play tools to help you to alter your overall state of being. And when your state of being moves from disempowered to empowered, you tend to be a lot more resourceful. In fact, a similar study about the negativity bias was talking about the fact that because of this negativity bias, we, as leaders in our community, in our work, in our family, we tend to be less creative when we're in a negative state of being, when we're inundated with negativity. Ever had those really good days, and maybe you have a friend or family member that kind of feels like the downer Debbie, and you just avoid that call because you don't want to ruin your day. Well, truth be told, we actually let them alter our day, but we got to be we got to be in a higher state of being. So two states of being we want to be really cautious of is one is an empowering state of being. And this is anything where we're feeling confidence, love, inner strength, joy, ecstasy, anything that has us feeling empowered and an extra hip hop in our step. And this could not always be these emotions that are huge. It could be just hope. It could be peace. It could be satisfaction. These are empowering state of beings that help us to become more resourceful in life, thinking outside the box, being more creative, versus paralyzing or disempowering states of being where people are lost in confusion or depression, stress, sadness, or just simply in indifference. I mean, this would be a great thing. I want you to think about here, participants, for a moment. And again, if you have access to that yes or no button, if you felt over in the last 3 to 4 weeks ever felt in a state of disempowerment or confusion, depression, or stress, I want you to click the yes button or click that thumbs up button if that's part of your bar there. For me, definitely. I mean, for me, it's like a roller coaster. And I've had to really lean in on these tools that we're about to share with you today that helped me to get out of that mental rut, get my monkey mind from freaking out and getting into a state of creativity again. Again, I want you to think about, in our mind, that survival brain is there hardwired to protect us. And our job is to help create and utilize the skills and tools and strategies to help that monkey brain be satisfied the fact that we're not in a threat of survival, so that we can lead ourselves into and escalate into higher levels of thinking. All right. So my name is Doug Castillo with Leadership Integration Simplified. And what I do, my job, I feel what I'm really good at is taking the hard thing and making them easy. Taking something that's complex and breaking it down, breaking out the formula so we can plug and play. We're busy. We've got a lot of things to do in our lives. And what I get to offer are critical questions, tools, and strategies that are easy to apply to your life. And what I love to do is find others that have that similar passion so that I can learn from them how to grow in my own life. And today's panel of pro coaches, they're going to share a few of their own personal techniques that they use with themselves and the clients that they see to give you a level up. I like to call this life simplified. Let's take what is challenging right now, which is sometimes just getting our state of being in a space of empowerment, and let's simplify it. All right. So that's what we're really going to be covering here today. And I want to offer you something at the very end of today. If you are interested and you like today's training, there'll be a link for you to just basically tell us where you want us to send the recording of today's webinar, today's podcast. We also will send you the slide deck. So if you see something you really like in the slide deck and you wanted to take notes and you'd prefer just be present, we're going to send you the slide deck. But it's going to be an expanded slide deck because some of my hosts here today, they have more stuff that they want to add on that we're going to be adding on to the slide deck. So more comprehensive. If you're interested in that, stay to the very end. Also at the very end, we're going to be opening up a Q&A. So if you have some questions for my pro coaches, this would be a great time to get some customized responses. And once again, I have some really cool opportunities as well that I want to share with you that you don't want to miss out on. In fact, I'm going to share with you, you may have noticed I wear these little red bands around my fingers. It's a really cool tool that has helped me to state change in a powerful way. And I want to tell you exactly why I wear these at the very end. But we've got some work to do here today, so I want to really jump in on that. All right. So once again, today is about simplifying our lives and keeping that monkey mind at bay. All right. So chaotic state, maybe that temptation for our monkey brain to go to, we're going to move from the chaotic state to being more resourceful. That is the point of today. So to help us out here today, I want to bring up our first pro coach. This is a coach who I have known for easily over a decade. And she is fun to the T, right? She puts adventure into everything she does. She's like, I wanted to say the MacGyver of self-development, but it's like the Rambo, out there adventuring, swinging from trees, basically helping distract your monkey mind long enough so you can actually get down to some of the core maybe challenges or paradigm structures that may be triggering some of that monkey mind behavior. And she runs a couple different companies that all are focused on and around fun venture, if you will. So we've known each other for 10 years. We've taught together quite a bit, and she's somebody who I admire greatly. She does a lot of different modalities. Today, she's going to be focusing in on physical state change, the tools and strategies that you can use to change your physical state so that your mental emotional state change can happen as well. So give me a moment here. I'm going to bring her up. This is Jen Saunders. I'm going to bring her up. Yes, the Rambo of self-development. That's just right there on the spot. Let me bring Jen on. Hey, I love that we have so many great people participating here today. There we go. I'm going to bring Jen on. We're going to give her a little bit of the spot here light today. At the end of today, my panelists are going to jump back on board, summarize what they have shared with you today, and they'll be there to accept questions at the very end. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you front and center, Jen, welcome you in. I'm going to unmute your audio there and bring you front and center. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Jen Saunders. Jen, you are live.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome. We're all just learning this technology as we go along, right?
Right. So, oh my gosh, I totally knew what I was gonna say, and I just now hold on, I've totally gone blank, which is it's so not like me. Like I can't hold on. Let me see if I can find my notes.
Yes. This is those times where I'm like, okay, look into the camera and tell me your name.
Right. Okay.
What state are you in? What's your birthday?
Hold on. Give me just like 15 seconds. Hold on.
Fantastic.
Okay, what do I know to do? Breathe. Okay, let's try this again. Whew. All right, everyone. Hey, you guys know what that feels like, right? Like those moments when you are prepared or you just feel like life is so in your corner, and then bam, all of a sudden you don't remember nothing. And you can't think clearly. You can't put two words together to make a sentence. You don't know what your resources are. You feel like your creativity has been totally squashed. And you guys know these moments, right? I'm not alone in this. So about 10 years ago, I had a Corona experience without actually experiencing Corona. My life was completely imploding. And I wanted to run away. Like that was my instinctive like go-to thing. Crazy monkey mind was to just run away. Well, crazy enough, I had just started running again, like taking up the actual activity of running. And I lived near some foothills. So I did what I naturally knew how to do. And I ran. And I did this because I wanted to run away from my life. It was a way for me to state change in a way where I could leave everything behind. So I'd lace up my shoes, I'd head out the door, I'd be in the foothills within a mile and a half. And I did two really wild things while I was out there. The first one, get ready for this. I ran without music. Right? I know. I just saw your minds go. I ran without music. And the second thing I did is I started to run with intention and purpose. And I called it movement meditation. I ran with the questions that I had on my mind at that particular time. And I literally ran with the energy that I call God. That energy was invited into every run that I went on. So it was a kind of meditation where you learn to go inward, where you become aware of the sensations of your body and the things around you, and your thoughts become clear. And what I discovered is that the more I did this, the more my monkey mind started to settle down, the more I started to receive answers. And I didn't have to wait for them. They came quickly. And what I would do is I would run back home and I would journal. Crazy, right? You're actually going to get to hear more about journaling from my buddy James here in a little bit. Did you hear me just say that I went home? I actually went home and I would write, but then I would go out and I would do it again without music, with questions, and I would return home. And what I realized is that the home that I was returning to was the home of me. I learned how to listen and be with me, to be aware of the states that I was in, whether it was a depressive state, a sad state, a lonely state, a state of like, oh my gosh, I can't even put a thought together, to a state of feeling the flow of actual energy with every footstep. I learned how to control that both on a run and at home. But then I took it a little farther, and I realized that not in every moment could I lace up my shoes and go for a run. So I was like, how else do I take this movement meditation and put it to use in other aspects of my life? Like when I'm driving and I'm in a state of like, or feeling some road rage, or I want to go to a store right now that I can't go to because it's closed, or there's a long line outside the door. And I do a thing called taillight meditation. So while I'm moving in my vehicle, I look at the taillights in front of me as a reminder to breathe. To slow down my heart rate, to find coherence, to slow down my brain rate, to let those monkeys stop jumping around in there, and to start finding connection. Head, heart, gut, chakras, bringing it all together. in so that it brings me to the here and now of the actual situation, which again, the more we do that, whether we're out running or you're on a bike or you're walking a trail or whatever that is in your car, you start to find more clarity, more innovation, and more resourcefulness. You start to recognize all of the awesome that's around you that you can then use and start making clear decisions. You come home. You come home to yourself. I love to take people on adventures, both inside and outside, as a way to start recognizing what blocks or what bridges need to be built as we move forward. Okay, somewhere there's a beautiful soul with a microphone on. Will you guys take a peek? And if it's you, mute it. State change. Beautiful. So as we start finding that innovation, that creativity, that resourcefulness, when we get in these spaces, we're able to have that clarity. I'm able to have that clarity. And that's what I love to do for you, is I love to take you on adventures where we get you in an activity that kind of plays with the ego and gets behind the guardian that is, and lets us get in deep, find what the blocks are, see where we need to build bridges, and continue moving forward so that you, upon the end of that adventure, can return home. One, to your physical home, and two, to this physical home, to your spiritual home, to the thing that actually is you. You guys, I'm Jennifer Saunders, and I am so happy to be a part of this adventure tonight and to start sharing with you a little bit of what I do and how I can assist you in creating state change in all aspects of your life. If you will go to, I'm so excited. If you guys will go to thejennifersaunders.com, you will be able to find, oh, there it is. Thank you, Doug. Or Masters of the Zoom. Click on the Own button. You will be led to a really beautiful, which I am just going to be so proud of and just own all of that, a beautifully crafted infomercial. It's an infomercial. You've got to slide it to make it happen. It's actually an infographic that will just give you 5 simple benefits of the movement meditation. Now there's lots. I just chose 5 that were, I felt like super simple to remember and to start using quickly. The photographs are all pictures that I have taken from places that I've been. This particular one happens to be on a glacier in Alaska, where I found great state change. You guys, feel free to reach out to this webpage. You can also get a hold of me at The Jennifer Saunders on Facebook, and also Smear the Fear, which was that page you just saw. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you today. I would love to answer questions you may have. Feel free to put them in the comments or in a message to Doug afterwards, and we'll get those answered. Until then, go be great and continue to smear the fear.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Before you go, Jen, I have a quick question for you.
Let's hear it.
One of the, and I'll give you a second to kind of respond to this. One, I love it. Just quick and easy ways for me to move into movement meditation. When I saw this from you, the first thing I thought was like, oh, movement meditation, because I imagined meditation is more like, you know, sitting still with your eyes closed.
Right.
And that to me is a really one good physical state change. My question to you here is, what's one other thing that I can do in addition to going to thejennifersaunders.com, downloading the 5-minute meditation, 5 movement. See, again, I already lost it. Sorry.
Right.
Downloading the cool PDF. What is another physical state change tool? So what I'm talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, here, I love having Jen on because she works as even a personal trainer, works with individuals on a physical level. And I feel like anything we can do to uplift our physical state is powerful. So breathing, I took down as one of the items that you're giving us here today, is taking a moment and really breathing, and that it'll get us out of that monkey brain, and sometimes it has us escaping where we are right now, here and now. What's one other thing that you would share in addition to your 5, because I didn't pull up the full document here for the element of mystery and surprise. What's one other thing that we could do right now to alter our physical state in addition to breathing?
Are you talking about activity or just physical state? For me,
Activity, just any kind of activity that I could do.
dance. That's another one of my quick favorite go-tos. If I'm having a mode and I'm not able to like shift gears really easily, and I'm not really in a space where I can go out and go for a walk or get on a bike, or I turn on some music and I dance. Again,
Oh, I love this.
It incorporates a higher heart rate. It incorporates having to intake greater amounts of oxygen, which is then going to go in and really feed the muscles and organs and tissues. But then it also feels good. And it can be meditative because you have that sense of your body and what you're doing, and really start shaking up the monkey brain, lulling them, like they join the party and then they just kind of go to sleep, so that then you can really get down to business.
So delicious. Thank you, Jen. I'm going to bring you back at the end here to kind of tie everything together and give us one more take on where can we go to get some more information there. All right. So thank you so much, Jen, for jumping online. We're going to bring her back to answer some questions to help us out in applying what we have learned here today. So I want to bring up my next guest here. He popped on for a second. James, you're welcome to jump on again. But there we go. I want to introduce our next guest. Yeah, no problem at all. And it's just so cool. I gotta bring up. I love being able to kind of promote a little bit of what y'all are doing. There we go. This is James Pemberton, and we are coming up on our 1-year anniversary. James reached out to me as a professional coach, as a kindred spirit, and was like, Doug, we gotta vibe. We gotta figure things out here. And we have been working together for almost a year now, which has been an amazing journey of collaborating together, restructuring kind of how we go about our businesses. And it's been really quite a journey here. James, one of the things I appreciate most about James is he comes with a level of kind of like the yin yang, a level of passion. You know, those people you meet that their passion is just intoxicating. And all at the same time, he's just chill. Everything's good. It's all good, man. You know? So James, just as a little bit of a tooting his own horn here, or me tooting his horn, he's been a professional coach in the community for 3 years now. And his specialty is going in and helping those who typically hide out in our community. And that is the working fathers that have to be tough. They have to wear all these hats and are expected to always know what to do at any moment. Even though inside, as one of these working fathers, inside, we're kind of thinking, oh boy, I hope nobody finds me out. That imposter syndrome, if that's been true for any of you out there, I want you to go ahead and click the yes button for you. Even if you're not a working father, if you're a working mother, I feel like there's a whole separate level of demands on you, or even just a human, there's a lot of demands on us. If you ever felt like, man, I'm afraid to be found out, James is a specialist in getting in there like a surgeon for those individuals and saying, you know what, I see you, it's okay, let's uncover some of this stuff and give you some tools to move forward more powerfully. And so, James, I brought you in here because one of the things I really admire about you is one specific activity that you use that I have actually called, and we kind of share this idea of this is your superpower. And it's a great tool that I think many of us have heard about and maybe even have practiced. And today I want you to bring us a new twist on a very simple tool to help us to change our mental, emotional state, and therefore our physical state, putting us in an empowering state to become more resourceful. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Pemberton.
Hello. So today I'm going to talk to you guys just a little bit about journaling. And you're like, who is this guy journaling? Yes, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons. I'll give you a couple stories here today. But guys, journaling has, as Doug put it, it is my superpower. It is the way that, or at least the easiest way for me to have a very simple, quick mental change, mental state change. If any of you are stuck at home with your children or your significant others, and you are feeling less than loving towards them in any given moment, please know that God, I am with you. This, for me being such a social person, this quarantine, this pandemic has been very difficult. And I miss my friends. I miss being social with everybody. And I think that pent up energy, that pent up social desire has really led to like frustrations of seeing the same, metaphorical four walls over and over again, seeing the same people over and over again, and that can be difficult. And what I want to say with that is just simply that journaling has been one of the best ways for me to change how I feel about any given circumstance. For example, if me and my wife are struggling because we disagree, or we're both exhausted from soul-sucking children, because they can be, then, I journal about it, and it allows me to see different perspectives. Or if you are struggling with your 3-year-old who we are potty training at the moment and had an accident, and I guess part of potty training, you're not supposed to be upset about them having accidents. I don't know. It's very difficult to not be upset at another human being peeing on your floor. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, again, journaling has allowed me to look at my daughter in a new light and realize that she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know how to do this. And she has a lot of things going on, with herself. So I wanted to share with you guys a quick story of one time where journaling really did actually completely change everything and actually shed a huge light on who I was on the inside. So about a year ago, it was actually on Valentine's Day last year, I was driving home from a quick work appointment, and it wasn't raining at the time, but it had rained that morning. And I was in my car. I had a Mazda 3. God, I love that car. It was beautiful. Maybe you can tell where this is going already. But I was just on a normal street. I took a turn far too quickly, and the car lost control. I actually jumped the curb and hit a tree. This totaled my car, and I was actually fine. Nothing happened. Absolutely zero injuries. And guys, the tree was like this tiny, like seriously it couldn't have been bigger than that. And so it was very, very upsetting. I remember feeling so much anger because I knew, one, that it was my fault, all my fault. Nobody else was there. Nobody else got hurt. It was all on me. I felt so much anger. And then, the first person I remember calling was like my dad, and then my wife, and like, I have no idea what to do. We had to get insurance involved and things like that. Guys, I said it once, but I'll say it one more time. I loved this car. This Mazda was a super beautiful, silver, sleek looking car, and it had all the cool gizmos inside. And holy crap, man, it was probably the coolest thing that I've ever owned. Yeah, Mitch was at work with me around this time, so he remembers. But guys, it took me a little bit, but I remember going home. I actually did journal shortly after I got home, and just thought about it for a little bit. I thought about, man, what did I experience? I remember experiencing anger, and I was so mad at myself. How could I let this happen? And then I remember experiencing sadness, and it was like grieving, like I lost something that was so precious to me. It took me a little bit. I put those feelings aside, and I just, hey, we had to go ahead and continue to, go on the day. It was Valentine's Day, so me and my wife had plans. And then later that night, I came back and I journaled again. And I had some crazy aha epiphanies, guys. number one was this car symbolized something for me. This car symbolized my worth. I felt really cool in my hot car. I know that sounds cheesy, and I know it's silly because, you know, I only 26 years old, so it wasn't even like a midlife crisis car, maybe a quarter life crisis car. It's fine. Um, but I did. I felt so cool in it, and I realized that I had somehow subconsciously attached some worth to this car, and that sadness that I was experiencing afterward was, wow, who am I without this car? Who am I? Cool? Am I worth anything? Am I, man? You know, do I have worth? And then after a couple more steps, a couple more thought processes, I was writing all this down. You know, I realized that, and it's simple, and you guys may all be like, "Duh, James, hello." Of course, you're not your car. Of course, that doesn't mean that you are worth nothing because of the car. But if any of you have been there with me, you know that mental states are very difficult to overcome at times. And you're thinking it, and you know it's not true. There's a part of you that knows it's not true, but there's nothing you can do to almost get out of it sometimes. For me, journaling is that thing to get out of it, guys. Journaling allowed me to detach that part of me. Luckily, with my dad's help, after that, we were able to, you know, file the claim with insurance. We were able to go ahead, and he helped me find a car that we were able to buy with savings. And guys, that car, buying or totaling that car, actually allowed me and my family to be completely debt free. We then bought this little 06 Honda that I drive to this day, and I tell her, "Thank you, honey. I appreciate, you know, rubber dash and say thanks. I appreciate you." Her name is Hope. Because every time that I drive her, I think about how she is the reason that my family is no longer in debt. And she gets me from A to B. Not at this time, because we don't drive her very much, sadly. But I am very, very grateful for my car that I have now. And so, guys, journaling is the key to quick mental state changes. So.
Awesome. Okay, I have a question for you, James.
Yeah.
And this is for a question also for everyone. James, you're going to be responding out loud. I have two questions for you, James, but a question for everybody. If you've got access to the chat window, again, clicking the little bubble, if you are a journaler, I want you to respond with what's one question you start journaling with. Like, what's the question you journal with? And the same thing is going to be for you. So, James, that's my question is, let's just say I am a noob, is the kids call it. I'm new at journaling, or I'm intimidated because what happens when I start journaling and nothing's there? Like, my monkey brain or my monkey mind just goes, I don't know. I don't speak English, you know?
Yeah.
So if you are a journaler, I want you to enter your favorite kind of starter question that helps you to get going. Cause I'm going to be honest with you, that is intimidating for me as a question. So that's question number one. I'm going to let you take it from there. And then I got another question just for you about journaling. So I feel like you have the superpower, and when it's like asking Superman, how do you fly? Oh gosh, how do I fly? I just fly. I just do it. So I want you to show us, tell us how you fly. Meanwhile, the group, go ahead and enter in the chat window your favorite starter question if you're a journaler, or a question that you may have heard of, like, you know, how was your, let's start with the question, how was my day? And I just start journaling from there. Or what's my biggest success of the day? Something like that.
Yeah.
But James.
Yeah, guys. So I did think about that because, like you said, when you ask Superman how to fly, he doesn't think about it. And that was me as well. Like I honestly thought about that in my preparation for today. And I was like, I just write. You know, I remember talking to my mom about this recently, and she was like, yep, you've just always been good at journaling. And like, she's shown me things that I've written before I can even remember. So I've had a lot of practice. But recently I've put that practice into like a purposeful, like arrow type deal, right? Where I'm really thinking about how I can use this. So I did come up with 3 questions that you guys can go ahead and journal. with, to start out with, to help your emotional state change, your mental and emotional state change. So number one is, and I'm going to read it. I took notes. I'm not going to be cool and pretend that I have this off the cuff. But number one, guys, is what emotions or feelings did I experience today? Very simple. It allows you to just be like, boom, what do I remember about today, and what was that experience? Number two is, how did I respond to them? What actions did I take? Did I avoid it? Did I embrace it? Did I say, no, that's not real? Did I let it out? Maybe in an unhealthy way, as anger often can be. And then number three is, I'm a wholehearted believer that emotions are there to teach us. Always. There's no negative emotion, period. And the third one is simply, what lesson can be learned from this experience?
Man, that's good. That's something that we'll put on the slide deck and send out, y'all. So if you got those, awesome, write them down. And if you want more, stay to the end. We'll give you a link so you can get those. So my second question for you, James, and then we'll move on to our third panelist. And that is, and by the way, thank you for revealing all of your secrets and your tricks. A magician never does that, but only sometimes. So what is your state before you journal typically, and then after you journal? I want to know the snapshot, the Polaroid before you journal typically, and then after, so we can say, okay, that's the kind of shifting I can make typically. Don't, nothing like huge, but just what is it for you typically?
Yeah. So often they are pent up emotions. It's anger, it's frustration, it's sadness. I'm one of those guys that I need to understand exactly how I'm feeling, right? Like, I can't let it just like, just let it go. Like, I'm working on my meditation, but like, it's hard to let things go sometimes just by thinking them. And so it's some pent up emotion. And then immediately afterwards, as I journal, I gain understanding. And then finally it is peace. There's this like afterwards of like, okay, I got this. And it's like, you can take on the world, and, or you don't have to either, right? You don't have to take on the world. You can also just be chill. And so that, I would say that, yeah, peace. Nice. Though peace is the biggest mental state change to after journaling.
Love it. So what I'm hearing here, as far as state, think about it. As you were describing this, it reminded me like a bottle of soda that's been shooken up. It's just so much pressure in there, like pent up emotion. But then that moment, where you let it settle, and then you open it up and it goes,
feels good.
Like the old Coca-Cola commercials.
It's satisfying.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That is satisfying. Yeah.
It really is.
Yes, indeed. So thank you so much, James. I'm going to have you back here at the end to answer some questions. We got some great journaling questions in the chat window here.
Yeah.
What am I feeling? What am I afraid of? How has the universe conspired in my favor? Some great reflection on goals. Yes. And then just gratitude. I've seen a lot of great things about gratitude. I love this idea of just something simple that you're proud of today. I think that's a great start. So James, I'm going to have you back. We'll wrap this up when we get to momentum. And thank you for sharing your superpower with us today. All right. So I want to bring in my final pro coach here. She's somebody who I have been working with. Gosh, it's been almost, I think we're on a year now. Actually, we've known each other for easily over a decade as well. She has this unique life circumstance in which, and I'm just, as I'm talking, trying to find my chat window so I can bring you on. I might have to stop the share. I'm just getting all fancy. She has a unique life experience where she works with troubled youth and teenagers. I'm going to have her experience a little bit of her experience, but basically she's taken a lifetime of experience of working with troubled foster children and helping give them a place of hope and peace, and giving them skills and tools. In the meantime, she's taken all of these resources of a lifetime of helping people out, people that turn to her in a state of trauma and crisis. And she's taken that and decided, wow, I have a great gift in this. And Michelle Watson brings us what is called soul codes. She calls it the soul codes. As a trauma recovery coach, she passionately devotes her time to helping people find a way through instead of getting blocked through this. One of my favorite things that she does is her unique skill set is helps rediscover, renovate, and revitalize someone's soul purpose. So I want to get Michelle on here. Let me turn your mic on, Michelle. That's my doing again. Oh, unmute. There we go. Welcome, Michelle. This is Michelle of Soul Vital, and she shares snippets of what she's learning in many different venues, one of which is Facebook. I love your tagline here, inspiring greatness. I bring you on today because you take a completely different aspect in your coaching and consulting business, dealing with trauma that's both seen and obvious, and also that which is unseen and may not be obvious to all of us, maybe when we're experiencing trauma. And maybe right now, some of us may be experiencing a little bit of trauma with what's going on in our own personal lives, financial lives, mental, emotional lives. And so I appreciate you coming on today and sharing a snippet of a state change tool that can help us to level up our lives, regardless if we have some significant trauma or not. So Michelle, thank you for being on today. I'm going to give you now the floor.
Thank you. So yeah, my passion is trauma and all the ways that it affects us. And I find that most people look at trauma. A fun fact before I go there, 64 to 70% of people before the age of 18 will experience trauma that affects them long term. But the issue is that most people think that trauma is maybe like veterans in combat, or if you've had severe abuse, maybe like some of my foster kids, severe abuse or neglect, a rape, you've been assaulted. Those are all definitely trauma, but that's not the only trauma that we go through. Trauma essentially is any negative life event that we have that puts us in a state of helplessness. So it could be a job loss, it could be a car accident, it could be a difficult medical procedure that puts us in a state of trauma and experiencing that. For a lot of people, the pandemic and the coronavirus and the situations that we've been put into because of it are putting us in a state of helplessness. People are losing their jobs, they're losing their ability and feeling helpless in their ability to provide for their families, to honor their agreements for their debts. And so we see a lot of people experiencing trauma right now, and some of you may be experiencing that trauma as well. So what I decided to share today is how I get through events of trauma and allow them to teach me and increase my capacity to understand myself, increase my capacity to grow, and increase my capacity all around to empower me and to understand where my resources are. So I'm going to start with a quick little story, a bit vulnerable. About 13 years ago, my husband and I experienced a ton of trauma. Within a very short period of time, we made a major move from Utah to Idaho. My husband then shortly thereafter lost his job. We were in the middle of building our dream home. We had actually paid off all of our debt and we're building our dream home together. And because of his job loss, we ended up losing everything. We had 5 children. We lived in a 500 square foot house that was 1 bedroom, and my husband and I slept out in a trailer. And our 5 children stayed in 1 bedroom. We had a bunk bed, and the top was the twin and the bottom was a double, and then one of them took a turn on the floor. And it was a very traumatic time. Shortly after, right before we had lost our house, I had also been in a car accident. And so that required several surgeries on my legs and put me in a wheelchair for a little bit. And so we had all this escalating stuff. And it put me in that monkey mind that Doug was talking about. I could not think. I was just in, how do I feed my kids? How do I pay my bills? How do I hide my car so it's not repossessed until I can get the next payment in? Just all of these, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I can't do this. It was such fear. And I remember the anxiety, a bit like Jen. I was feeling anxious for Jen because I know Jen, And I have never seen her speechless. So I was a bit glad that she was making a point, because I was like, what is happening? But it was this state of, I have nothing, I'm worth nothing, I have not enough. And it's something that I've recognized going around in this pandemic. The problem is we all have trauma, and we oftentimes don't have the tools and the skill sets to recover and reset the truth about ourselves after those traumas happen. And I like to call it fear goggles. And I have these on my head to remind me. These are readers, because as I'm aging, I've always had perfect eyesight, but things are a little bit, small things are harder to read for me. But what I recognize with these is when I put them on, what I'm reading, or what it has to be like right here, right in front of my face. And everything else around me is super blurry. Like I couldn't see anything out and around. That is exactly how fear works. And sometimes, like, these are like only like a 1.25, but fear, when we have different events that render us helpless, that can increase the magnification. So I don't know if you've ever tried on these that are like a 5 or even a 3.5. You seriously, nothing around you is even relatable. Like, you see colors, that's it, but you can't see detail. So I use that as a demonstration of fear goggles. Sometimes that fear is there from the trauma and it gets magnified. And when that lens is across our eyes, all we can see is what's directly in front of us. And it requires us taking it off. But isn't it interesting? Sometimes we keep it really close, so at any time we can just put it right back on. Like, oh no, I'm not enough. I don't have enough. And what I've noticed, and maybe you guys will notice this too, there's been a lot of talk about the idea that when we go to the store and there's not enough at that moment, that people are hoarding, that this is somehow victimizing us. That is one of the first ways that trauma affects us, is it puts us in scarcity. And that's there for our benefit. There is a piece of our brain that works to give us red flags so that we recognize. The idea is that we don't just stay in scarcity, that we use that information to look outside of ourselves to become more resourceful. So there's two really big ways that I have found that fear affects us. Number one, it shifts us into scarcity, which allows us to objectify others. So it's their fault that I don't have enough food, when the fact of the matter is, we were all told that we were going to be quarantined, and we all went into the mindset of, we're not sure what that's going to look like. And so we all went out and purchased 2 to 3 weeks worth of food, when in reality, the stores only have 3 to 5 days worth of food for a community. So when even a fourth of the community goes and buys 2 to 3 or 4 weeks of food, it's not hoarding. They got what they required, maybe a little bit more because they're not aware of how much they need during that time. But for those of us who have had trauma and who don't believe that there's enough in this world for us, we've seen it as somebody else victimizing us again. So if you were that person that went there, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to recognize, what put me in that state of scarcity to objectify another person and allow that perspective to victimize myself. Another place that is really easy to identify if somebody is in fear and scarcity mode is in your language. The way that you speak tells everything about you. And if you're aware of what those words are or what those statements are, you can become more aware of how to bring more clarity to your vocabulary. Some tips about that are, recognize in your vocabulary, are you using absolute statements like, I never have enough, I'll never be good enough, or people always break my stuff. I used to be like, my kids always break my stuff, not their own, you know. So that was a state of victimhood created from trauma, that I had this belief that my stuff would get broken. Or again, there's not enough. So another place is if you use the word can't. I can't There in our home, we don't allow that word. Oftentimes when it's brought up, I say, no, you either do it or you don't. There's no try and there's no can't. Absolute words like it's impossible. That's not an abundance word. That's a scarcity word. That's a word that victimizes you because there are possibilities. And when we have those fear goggles on, we don't see the entire landscape. We see what's right in front of us. So I'm trying to think, absolute statements, never always, oh, I'm always, this always happens to me. Can't, should, if you are saying, I need, there are some necessities in life, but when you are needy in your life and in your vocabulary, that is a place where you may want to address your perspective of your scarcity and your fear. And identify in your thought processes, where are you telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, or you're not resourceful enough, or you're not creative enough. So those are just some places to identify for yourself where fear may really be infiltrating into your life, and have a chance to look at that. Some things that I do when I get into that space, and some things that I've done in the last week as I've coached people through some really, really difficult stuff, losing jobs, not being able to pay rent, not being able to pay car payments, all of these things. I've been able to coach a few people through this. And most of the time when that person is in front of me, it really is a state of blinders. Just, they can only see what is in front, the car note that can't be paid, the food that isn't in the house. But when I use these tools, one of them is ask yourself, what would it feel like if I had plenty? What would it look like if I had enough? When you start asking these questions, your brain is required to find the answer. And when you ask those questions, it shifts you out of, I can't, I don't know how, I don't have enough, to, wait a second, what are my resources? It allows the creative part of you to really see the larger landscape and identify where you are in abundance. Another thing that I really love to do is I ask the people that I work with, the people that I coach, allow yourself to step into vulnerability, choose a person that you trust, and ask them to look at your picture from their perspective and offer up what they see as resources for you. So for instance, one person that I coached this week, I said, right now, a lot of banks are working with people. Maybe call your bank, did you know, and ask them to defer your payment. And when they called their bank, they were so excited because they had payment history that allowed them to defer for 2 months with no fees. They didn't even know it was an option because they could only see like what is right here. They couldn't see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is you are enough. You have enough. There's always enough. And you have the resources and the resourcefulness. You just got to step out of fear and into creativity. So abundance mindset allows us to increase our capacity for that creativity and for innovation, which is awesome. So those three things, what would it feel like? What would it look like? And allowing yourself to be vulnerable with a person that you trust so they can help you see the bigger picture.
Ooh, that is so good. I know my camera wasn't on, but I was like fist pumping and just really like getting chills. Can we put those questions on the slide deck?
Sure,
for those
absolutely.
who stick around to the end?
Yeah.
I love those. They're awesome. So question for you, Michelle. I don't know if anybody on the board has, in the group here has ever experienced, where it's nice and sunny outside, you have your sunglasses on and you're driving maybe long distances and slowly the sun goes down and you're like, why is it so dark? And you forget that you left your sunglasses on. I kind of see that as your visual for your fear goggles. Let's just imagine I've been watching this awesome podcast and I'm like, I'm not aware that I'm wearing fear goggles right now. What's something I could do that I could do in less than 5 minutes that kind of just takes a look at these things and chooses to do something about it. Because sometimes I don't even know I've got to apply these 3 questions because I don't know if I'm wearing them. So in your opinion, what's something I can do, like some kind of actionable that would help me to realize whether or not I'm wearing any fear goggles? Quick check.
I really think that language, recognizing your own language, being aware of your vocabulary is a #1 factor.
Cool.
Anywhere that you, or even your thoughts, your beliefs that are limiting you, that there's somewhere there's not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not, you know, whatever, that's strong enough. I'm not creative enough. I don't know. Oftentimes when I'm with somebody coaching them, I don't know needs to end with yet. So if you're saying those things, I don't know yet, but you know, so language is critical.
Cool. So I could just simply write down maybe a few of those phrases and just work on them tonight and maybe even tomorrow. Just writing them down takes me less than a minute. And if I could just recognize me using that, I would even say if there was an extra challenge for any of y'all out there that want an extra challenge, you write down one phrase that you may feel like you say a lot, hand it to somebody else, maybe one of your children or your spouse, and say, I'll pay you $1 if you catch me using this phrase.
Oh yeah.
That would be a great way to break the habit. Break the habit or break the bank. Depends on how committed you are to changing. So Michelle, thank you so much. I'm going to bring you back in just a moment here to answer some questions and summarize those 3 questions just as a last point for anybody who wants to stick around at the end. It's well worth your time. I will shamelessly plug any of my panelists here today. Soul Vital, find her on Facebook. Absolutely awesome. Thank you, Michelle, so much for joining us in today. And so let me just share a quick tool that will kind of wrap everything together here. And I want to do this by sharing a story. Again, Leadership Integration Simplified was born in this level of confidence that I feel like I have a knack of understanding why people do what they do and how to simplify processes to make my life and others simple. Simplify processes so that we can level up our level of leadership in our homes, in our families, in our communities, at work. But it hasn't always been like that. I was incredibly shy as a kid, like growing up. And it didn't help that I was always the tallest in my grade. And if I got picked on in the middle of class, like called upon in class, I remember having to stand up and my voice would just quiver. My cheeks would shake. I was so shy and did not want to speak in front of any group. I was just petrified. And I had to learn skills and strategies to go from that state of fear to the state of being comfortable in front of groups so that I could really share my gift. And I want to share with you a couple of the tools that I use to break through that fear. And it starts by simply a friend of mine asking me, what are you so afraid of? What are you so afraid of? Because the truth is, man, what are we so afraid of? Public speaking, if that is a fear of yours, public speaking, or even if you get nervous, and here's a little secret, I get nervous still. I'm just used to the nerves. That's all that's really changed. And I've learned how to calm my monkey brain, my monkey mind down. But if you get nervous thinking about speaking in front of a large group, I want you to click yes or type in the chat window like, sure, me, that's all me all the way. Or no, not too bad. So again, if you get nervous speaking in a group, if you've had that experience, I want you to chat in the window box, yes, me, or however that looks for you. But I want you to kind of play along here. But this idea of what are you afraid of? The monkey is in my mind as a youth. It was like, what if I say something stupid or wrong and everybody laughs at me and nobody wants to play with me at recess? And if nobody plays with me at recess, I'm going to grow up, in a cave somewhere and I'm going to die, and the monkey brain goes a little bit nuts. So there. Anybody ever had that experience before? Kind of like this imposter syndrome we've talked about at the very beginning. Or the fear, kind of like at the beginning, the little exercise with Jen where she's like, I forgot what I was going to say. But it's just that state, that perfect example where we've been before where we're like, oh, I completely went blank. Like, what would that be like in life if we were called, maybe we're doing a Zoom meeting and we're in charge and we're not able to formulate our words appropriately. So this idea of what are you afraid of? The powerful questions can help us to level up our state of presence and help us to be more creative and more resourceful in our lives. So this is the question I'm bringing to you today. Question number 1 is, what are you afraid of? This is a question and a conversation I want you to have with your monkey mind in a safe space. So I'm going to go back to Jen. Number 1, first off, breathe. When you find yourself in a disempowering state, breathe. Maybe do some movement meditation. And then this is a great question to start using some of James's superpowers and journaling out. Okay, what am I so afraid of here? Now, the monkey mind is going to love this because it's like, whoo, what are you afraid of? I've been waiting to tell you all my fears. And the echo chamber or a mind is going to want to talk about what are we so afraid of. So be careful here, as the monkey mind really wants to kind of chat this out. And this is actually a good thing in a contained, safe space. So breathe, move about, get ready to journal. And this is where I say set a timer. So tell your monkey brain, you get the floor for 5 minutes. Let's just journal or voice into my phone or talk out into the mountainside. But I do feel like it's got to be an activity, because if you let the monkey brain talk this out in the echo chambers of your mind, meaning non-verbally, that can sometimes lead to that victim languaging of I can or they always that Michelle talked about, or lead us into a downward spiral. And again, then pulling our physical state down and leading us to be less resourceful and stuck. And that's not what we want. We want to come out of this on top, right? And so asking that question, what are you so afraid of? And just listen for a moment. It's like, gosh, like, okay. And for me, some of the fears are, what if I'm in front of a client and I say something funny? Like, what if I curse in front of the group? I love a good curse word appropriately placed. And sometimes there was this fear of like, hey, what happens when I curse? You know, I stick to the classics. But that fear, like, okay, what if people laugh or they judge me, and then how would I know? And the monkey brain kind of goes like, oh, okay, and it talks around it a little bit. Or what if I sound stupid? Or what if somebody laughs? Or what if nobody cares what I'm talking about? Ugh, worse, right? And this allows the monkey brain to kind of release some of the pressure, kind of like that soda pop analogy, just release a little bit of the pressure, because all it's designed to do, fight, flight, or freeze, is to keep you safe. And if we could just listen for a moment, you may actually find some good nuggets of knowledge there. So step 1, utilizing some of what you learned today, ask the monkey mind, okay, what are you most afraid of? That could be a great way to dislodge some of the fear goggles and just kind of examine them a little bit, because maybe that monkey brain is trying to protect us from something. So what are we so afraid of? Then after the 5-minute timer goes up, bing, then I want you to now transition, take that material or take that emotional state and start to make an action plan. Something that you can put yourself into motion towards something, to do something, anything. So for me in public speaking, I went from being deathly afraid to be called on in any class, anytime, even like giving a speech in front of like a congregation or something like that. I have terrible stories about this. But then if I could just have a plan, an outline of what I'm going to say, most importantly, how was I going to start talking? And that actually helped put me into motion. And then I started a little trick, literally a trick. Anytime I was asked to give a talk or a speech or a presentation, I would start with a magic trick, because it was something that was familiar to me. It was something that helped me feel calm, and it actually distracted my monkey brain into thinking that we were all good. Meaning, if my life is in jeopardy, then I can't think of anything right now and I'm going to freak out. But if I'm doing magic, then the world must be okay. It's really hard to take yourself serious when you're actually pulling a quarter out of someone's ear. And so this is one of the things that I love to share is magic tricks. And it actually became a tool to support me to calm my monkey brain and to help me to take action in getting started. So I'd open up a presentation with magic tricks, and I did this for years for my own selfish intention to help calm my nerves and make me feel okay again. And then once I was moving, I was fine. Once I was going, I was fine. And this is why I call action, having an action plan and then immediately implementing the first step, momentum. It puts you in motion towards what you want. And so pairing 5 minutes of monkey brain, monkey mind can actually talk out. What am I so afraid of? Get some of those fears out there, and then start riddling out maybe an action plan of moving forward. Okay, I gave it my due. Let's move forward on something, anything. And right now it may feel like, I don't know what to do. Action plan can be simply as like, you know what, today I'm going to work for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. And after that, I'm going to take a 5-minute walk. just need to get around the block. Or I'm going to connect. If you've got something scary coming up, maybe a job interview, this is a great opportunity to just say, okay, what do I want to feel? What do I want to present? And maybe utilizing some of the questions that Michelle shared to help us to take off the fear goggles and step into a higher state of being. So after I've done my 5 minutes of what am I so afraid of, talking that out, maybe really exploring maybe what the monkey brain or monkey mind is really afraid of, then shifting into action. Action puts us out of a state of a lot of times freaking out and into focus. So when I'm focused in the present moment, then I can celebrate accomplishment as I move forward. And that's what you really want to do, is celebrate. Celebrate yourself as you move forward. Ultimately, take that mental break and just don't take things so seriously. The things that are serious, address them, make an action plan and take motion forward. But anything that's not serious, take it easy. And what we want to do is put a little lipstick on that monkey mind of ours and laugh a little bit. This is my second tool. In addition to asking, what am I so afraid of? And then pairing that with some kind of action to move myself out of the fear and into motion. The second one is just to not take yourself so seriously. So this is why I love magic, because it's a great tool to help us get out of our monkey brain, monkey mind. In fact, I have, over the last 3 weeks, taught a couple free magic lessons just for anyone, man, woman, child, that wants a break from the mental quarantine. And I wanted to take in my skills of making things, taking hard things and making it simple and just breaking it down. In fact, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching the salt shaker trick that I opened with today. I am revealing that secret, one, because it's cool and it's a great gift for the community to take a load off and something fun to share. So if you're going to be around, I'm going to be streaming that live on Facebook, as well as having a Zoom training on that. Just a fun way to kind of take a load off. Bring a salt shaker or a little shot glass or a juice cup, a coin, and a paper towel or paper napkin. I'll show you the ropes, all right? So I use magic as a great tool, and I also love humor as a mental state change tool. Here are a few fun things. My job interview at Petco. Interviewer, we need a real cat person, me. While looking him straight in the eye, I push the stack of file folders off the desk. Interviewer, you're hired. How much do you want? So great. I can barely make it through the end. We have cats, and that is really funny as a cat person. In addition to that is one more great joke, and I love looking up jokes. The cornier the better. The deeper the pun, the better. Today I noticed that the cover of my ironing board was wrinkled, and I laughed at the irony. And then I laughed again because of the word irony. I vibe with people who have a similar sense of humor than I do, and one of my best buddies sent me these, and I love them. I could cry. I think it's so funny. This is the thing I love about children too. Children are a great state change because they're always committed to their current state, whatever their current state is. I hope you love those as much as I did, and I hope today has been a state change for you. Your state of being and taking you into a state of hope, of possibilities, and most importantly, resourcefulness. Now, we could take everything we learned today and wrap it into momentum, but we really want to simplify things. I'm going to bring my panelists on back in just a brief moment here, and we're going to just summarize this down and dirty. How can we take 5 minutes and apply what we've learned here today? Here is the benefit. And I stumbled upon a study that was done in 2011 by Massachusetts General Hospital. They talked about 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation and combined with journaling and so forth actually causes changes in the brain. Different parts of the brain will actually shift and grow based off of 8 weeks of meditation, creating people, increasing the ability to retain memory, retain information, sense of self, empathy went up, and stress went down. I thought that was awesome. So just practicing mindfulness, using any of the tools here today, this will be a great start for you to not only help give yourself more resourcefulness, but also grow your brain. So a little tool here that I love is our little gentle reminders to change my state. When I'm in a state of worry, I actually love interrupters. So I am going to give you a sneak peek. I just released a 30-minute training that I want to share with y'all. It is a training that both combines together techniques to establish solid, good habits in your life. And specifically right now, we're told exactly what to do to keep ourselves safe, but we're not told how to do it. It's so simple, some of the things we've got to do, But because sometimes we're stuck in that monkey brain or monkey mind, we don't know how to apply this. I'm going to hook you up. It's called the Red Finger Brigade at redfingerbrigade.com. I'm going to invite each and every one of you to join the Red Finger Brigade by taking 30 minutes. It's a great state change, and it's loaded with information, and most importantly, information that could possibly save your life or the life of the people around you, considering what's going on right now. Now, embedded in all of this is a great, cool strategy to establish phenomenal habits. And the habit you will learn on this video, quite possibly, will, I say save your life, but keep you healthy for life. Really good stuff, really good information. If you're interested in that, redfingerbrigade.com, go watch the video, bookmark it. It's got some really good, juicy stuff in there. Real handsome guy with the Red Bandit Brigade, you know, or the Red Finger Brigade here, ready to take on the world. Next, if you do want to, once again, thank you for sticking around to the end here, and just juicy information that we've really been able to cover here today. I have benefited greatly from this. I'm excited to take everything we've learned together, put it back onto the slide deck and share it with y'all. If you do want to have access to the recording of the link of today and the slide deck, simply tell me where to send that information, all right? So you want to go to lifesimplified2020.com/state change. /state change. We've been talking about the state change here today. You go to this website, tell me where you want me to send this information. I'll be sending out a link. All right. So if that's interesting to you, awesome. Regardless, I want to thank you for your time here today, and really, most importantly, send you away with some good things to take away and do. And this brings me to our mascot of the day. This is Coco. He is the momentum cat that teaches us it's time for momentum. He climbs up on tables at the exact moment for momentum. If you're allergic to cats, it's okay. You can still do these momentums. All right. So I want to share. I bring back my panelists here, and then panel, if you can, go ahead and turn on your video. I might have to turn it on for you. Oh, all right. James, Michelle, and Jen, thank you for coming back on here today. And we're going to start with Michelle. 5 minutes. What can we do in 5 minutes? Give us a summary of what we can do in 5 minutes as a takeaway, and then I'll get Jen on here. I'm not seeing her quite yet, so I'll get her on here. 5 minute takeaway, summarizing what you talked about, because I'm going to give you a little sneak peek, everyone. I'm going to invite you to take 5 minutes to implement one thing you learned today. You don't have to do it all. Just take one simple thing to change your state. Michelle, you're going first. James, you'll be on deck. 5 minutes. Don't take 5 minutes, but what can I do in 5 minutes?
Okay, I'm like 5 minutes about that? Wow, okay. What can you do in 5 minutes? Identify your language, how you're using it, where you're saying you're not enough in absolutes. Recognize where you're objectifying others. Ask yourself, what would it look like if I was more resourceful? What would it look like to be more creative? What would it feel like if I knew where my resources were coming from? Ask that question for whatever you're stuck on. And I just want to remind people, I was told this a while ago and I wanted to share it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice, and you choose to stay in fear or step out of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that's really, really good. All right, James, hit us up. Boil it down.
So guys, it's really easy to journal. Everybody has a phone, okay? You can even do it right here, okay? I have my journal, but it's because I've been doing this a long time, so I love it. However, guys, it's so easy. Take a moment, 5 minutes, any moment in your day, and journal. Those 3 prompts that you can use to start out with one more time are: what emotions or feelings did I experience today? How did I respond to those emotions or feelings? And then what did I learn from that experience? So
awesome. I love it. Thank you, James. All right, Jen, 5 minutes of momentum. What can I do with 5 minutes to take action?
All righty. I still say move. You gotta move. Get the blood flowing, get the energy moving, getting that oxygen again to feed your brain, to feed your muscles, to feed you. If you can't, if you're like, I don't want to go on walk your stairs, walk your house, walk your yard, do something to just move and focus on your breathing as you do that and feel yourself revitalized in that 5 minutes. Come home.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a home I'd like to be quarantined in. So 5 minutes of action. Again, if you have questions, now's the time to make a mental note of your questions for any of my panelists or for myself. We'll be sticking around to answer some questions here. But here is the action item. Take one skill or tool you learned today and just take action on it tonight. Start putting something in motion. Even if it's an alarm on your phone to start something tomorrow, that's an easy thing you can do in less than 5 minutes. Then I specifically want you to note your state of being before you take action, and then take a note of your state of being after you take action. And then notice how that new state of being puts you in a state of greater resourcefulness. That is the point. Our objective here today is to understand that we have control over our state of being, our mental and physical state. And either one of those can influence each other to put us in a productive and a resourceful state of being, so that when we're ready to get out again, and I know if you're anything like me, I'm ready to get out in the world again, that we're more equipped, more ready, and more creative to take on life at a new level of leadership. So I'd like to end with this thought here. It is the mind that maketh good or ill, that maketh wretched or happy, rich or poor. Edmund Spencer, which is not the photo you see off to the side, just as a note to Edmund. So once again, thank you so much for investing your time in yourself today. And thank you for sharing your time here with us and joining us. If you have questions, stick around. I highly encourage you to go to lifesimplified2020.com/state change to sign up for the link to the recording so that you can watch this again when your monkey mind wants to chirp in, and it will. It's just nature. So with that, thank you so much for joining us here today. Stick around for Q&A if you have them. Thank you, panelists, for joining us here today as well.
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome. If you have questions, now's a great time to either chat that in the window. You can stick around and just kind of be privy to some of these great conversations. I'm going to start while you're generating some questions here. I'd like to ask a few questions of my panelists. Jen, first off, and again, if you have a question, just enter it in the chat window. Jen actually takes groups around the world. Again, one wonderful thing I use is magic and humor to distract my monkey brain so they can take action. You use large-scale adventures to distract people's monkey minds. I think that's pretty awesome. Tell me what adventures you've taken groups on, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so camping trips. So we do anything from what I call tag-alongs, which are basically a short adventure where I want to do something and I invite you along. We give you a touch and go. We teach you a little something, and then we head out on the trail. That can be kayaking, that could be hiking, it could be sitting in a hot pool somewhere. And then we do greater things where we've gone camping, we've done overnight kayaking trips, and then we do things like Cambodia. This October, we actually are going to Cambodia. The premise is always to have fun, to educate, and to serve. And so we will be building a couple houses in Cambodia. And I'm just going to put that out there. We now have 2 spots available, if anyone's interested.
Okay. Well, do I just meet you in Cambodia?
You can meet me in
and
Cambodia.
look for you?
Yes. Meet me in Cambodia. Good luck finding me. No, you can visit the jennifersaunders.com webpage and click on adventures, and you'll see a Cambodia 2020. And that'll give you information. Then just get a hold of me on how to actually get registered, because that has changed just a little bit with all of this.
I imagine so. That's awesome. That's cool. Very, very cool. Check it out. thejennifersaunders.com. If you do see Jennifer Saunders, that is a famous British actress, and she's awesome as well. I don't think she's taking you to Cambodia, though. So a little bit of difference
she's not
there.
the Jennifer Saunders.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to be taking questions for another 5 minutes. Before I do that, James, if there was one thing that the working husband or the working father was most afraid that people might find out about them, the thing that you help people to uncover, or help these gentlemen uncover, what might that be? Now, again, don't share any names, but what would you say one of the things that you noticed that working husbands or fathers may struggle with in your career that that you help people uncover?
Great question, Doug. I would say from my experience, first of all, that they have emotions, that they have feelings, that and that they're okay. That and I think the other thing as well is all of the emotions that they're experiencing. If it's hating my job, if it's not happy in my relationship, they're all okay. It's good to feel, and I think that would be one of the main things that I help people understand is, dude, these are here and they're not going anywhere. And if you don't let them flow through you, they will cause more damage than needed. So yeah.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. And it's so funny because we label the emotion of like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm fine, and there's so many range of emotions that we can experience. And if we cut out, the lower range, we're also kind of cutting out the higher ranges as well.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. All right, Michelle, you've got 2 questions here that on the board. And as you answer these questions, I'm going to go back to our slide. If anybody wants to get a hold of any of these phenomenal coaches, I'm just going to put y'all's information back up here. So let me ask these 2 questions here. Let's start with the first things first. Lamont asks, besides watching your language and not objectifying, what's the most powerful question you ask yourself? Good question.
What is the most powerful question I ask myself? Well, it would honestly be the one that I shared for journaling, because it always takes me out of fear. And that is, I believe that the universe conspires in my favor 100% of the time. And so I will ask myself, how has the universe conspired in my favor? And that leads you in all directions. I oftentimes recognize specifically with my teenage girls, I primarily take teenage girls, and they often self-harm or suicidal. That one question, recognizing how the universe conspires for you and because of you, will take you out of fear, because it takes you to a place of gratitude. So that's my number one question, is getting when you're in high levels of fear, gratitude.
That's good. That's really good. All right. So another question came in from Bonnie. She asked, how do you uncover the emotions of someone who has buried their emotions very, very deep? Like, do you have like a boring tool that bores deep to those inner
there's a lot to address there. I would say that we have more than one tool. It's definitely something that when you've got stuff buried, it's just like when you're digging up anything, you might need to use several tools. And that's what we use the soul codes for. We help you strengthen your beliefs. We help you identify how trauma has created some of those beliefs. We help you understand the tools and the gifts that you already have. We help you identify what those are and help you understand those, and shift you so that you can operate in your creativity and your passion. But there's not one tool that works for every person. So it's a set of tools.
That's cool.
Answer her question specifically, but there's more than one way to do that.
I would reach out, Bonnie. Michelle's got a lot of tools in her tool belt. And again, I just think sometimes a more customized question will get a more customized response. I have one more question. I'm going to be asking to Michelle. Before I move on to this final question, it was sent to me privately by one of the members. And so I want to address that without their name. Before I get to this question, Jen or James, do you have anything you would like to add to either of these 2 previous questions? Powerful questions you ask yourself, or how do you uncover emotions of somebody very, very deep? No pressure, I'm putting you on the spot, but if you do, just wave your hand in the air like you really care, like you really, really, really care. Okay, Jen, you anything more to add to this? And then I'll ask the last question here that was privately sent to me. And then we'll move to a state change of preparing for our night routines. if you have a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old because they get up at 6:30. But I'd love to answer. I'll be sticking around until everybody goes to bed. I'll sing you a lullaby. All right. So Jen, to you.
I really appreciate the depth that Michelle has in this, and noticing that there are a lot of ways to answer that particular question and to get around. As we're talking about that, again, one of my favorite tools is to find some kind of distraction, something that as we're working on that particular question or item, that for me it's play, or again it's movement, and some way to like focus on, and as we're presenting that question, to get behind the guards of the ego, is another beautiful way. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but that like healthy distraction as we're working through the tools and the questions, for me, always works wonders. It helps me really get in behind and get deeper to those things that just love to hide in the shadows.
Cool. Very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Final question of the night. And then I'll just kind of be singing sweet lullabies. I saw another funny meme. I'm going to alter the meme slightly because it was a little inappropriate. And we are still technically recording. Basically, I'll rephrase it and like, you give me $5 and I'll sing. You give me $20 and I won't sing. So I'm fundraising for the coronavirus. Give me $5 and I'll sing you a song. Give me $20 and I won't sing you anything. So that's what's another way, right? So final question here for you, Michelle. And one of the participants asked, if your normal state is more negative, so due to trauma, like the trauma brain, how do you switch that to be more neutral or positive? So if you've gotten a lot of trauma and you are defaulted to more negative is what I'm reading into this, how do you get to at least ground zero or even above that into a positive state?
So if you've had extreme trauma, the first place that I like to take you is identifying ways that we take that trauma and you recognize how it has also been good in your life. So I like to say, if you blame it for everything, or if you blame it for one thing, you have to blame it for everything. So for instance, for me, I'll take losing my home. That was so traumatic, and it put me into there's not enough. But it also was the exact reason why my husband and I were able to step into creativity and create his IT business. And it's the exact reason why I was able to, I had my own painting business where I did custom high-end faux finishes, because I was looking for resources. So the reason that we created everything that is abundant in our life is also the reason that we felt a lot of suffering and pain and hopelessness and despair. So it's just a process that we get to walk through to help you recognize all the beauty that also came from that trauma. And it's there. You might not be able to see it on your own. And that's where you take the glasses off and you allow somebody to help you get a bigger picture of the landscape that really is yours because of what you've been able to experience.
Some really, really good insight there. I don't have a lot of experience with a personal deep trauma. I know that there's some experiences that trigger me. And so I don't know exactly where this responder is coming from, but it sounds to me like that would really help to get us on the pathway. And if you're still listening and want to get a hold of Michelle, after this podcast tomorrow, I will be sending just a thank you email with some their personal contact information. So if that was interesting to y'all, then reach out. A technique that was shared, it was shared to me by a buddy. It's from a Gay Hendricks book, that sometimes we've got to just sit in the emotion and allow it to get as bad and ugly as possible and flow through us. And just kind of sit and experience it, but set a timer, because again, I don't know your level of trauma. And so having a safety net there of some timer to just let that emotion, whatever it is you're currently experiencing, feel it, let it flow through you, as James talked about earlier, and just let that flow through you. And then ding, timer goes off. we're done. We're going to let go of it and move on with the day for now. You know, maybe put it on the shelf, giving yourself permission to address it again if it does rear its ugly head up again, which is likely doing. And then get somebody to help you out with that. Get some external leverage to help you out with that. And on that note, I hope that gave you all some great insight. Again, thank you for sharing your time and your evening with us here tonight. And I look forward to taking another concept that may seem challenging, breaking it down and simplifying that, making life just a little simpler for you. If you have suggestions for things you would love to see, love to hear about, maybe challenges specifically you're facing, it would be great to just make it a little bit easier. Then reach out, share some of those concepts with me or any of my panel here today. They're great individuals. Check them out. I wouldn't bring them on if I wasn't just absolutely beside myself, lucky to be associating with them. But thank you once again for being online here tonight and connecting with us. My hope is your state went to a higher state of existence and that you walk away feeling more resourceful. Thank you again, and good night.